All right. Frequency polygon for our group data. Have to make sure I get my right numbers on the end. So it says the heights in inches for the sample of 19 male adults are as listed. Draw the frequency polygon for these data using an initial class boundary of 59.5, an ending class boundary of 84.5, and 5 classes of equal width. Label each class width with its midpoint. So on your histogram, you're labeling the endpoints. On your frequency polygon, you're just labeling the midpoints of each section. However, you have to find the midpoints of each section. So you really have to find what the end of each of your categories are. So like we did before, we're going to start off and we're going to subtract. We have our 84.5. We're going to subtract our 59.5. It must be 25. And I have 5 equal classes. So I'm going to divide that by 5. And so I'm going to just along the side list out what the end would be of each section. We were starting with 59.5. And if we add 5 to that, we would go to 64.5, right? We have to find the midpoint of that. How can I find the midpoint of my two numbers? Add them together and divide by 2, right? So if you take 59.5 plus 64.5 and you divide it by 2 for me. Oh, that you didn't divide by 2 yet, right? $59.5 plus your 64.5 and then divide it by 2. 62. 62. Now I know that this midpoint is going to be at 62 then. Okay, my next section, 64.5 to, if I add 5, 69.5. The midpoint of that would be 67. My next section is going to be from 69.5. 5 more than that would be 74.5. So the midpoint of that would be 72. My next section is going to be from 74.5 to 79.5. So the midpoint of that is going to be 77. And we're not quite to the end because we've got to go to 84.5. 79.5 to my 84.5. My midpoint of that is going to be 82. Now, the next part is basically doing the same thing we did with our histogram. We actually have to count the values in each of those sections, and then we're just going to pull the bar up to that, or the point up to that spot. So again, we're going to put our data in, if you want to put it either in Excel or on your graphing calculator and sort it out, because we need to figure out how many are in each of those sections. So, again, just hit Stat 1, clear out your list, and then we got to put in all those 19 numbers. And then we are going to sort them. And look at our list. And then do our counting. So when we're counting or doing our counts, we're still thinking about, like we did with our histogram, how many values are in that first section between 59.5 and 64.5. So, how many are in the first section between 59.5 and 64.5? Anybody count them up yet? So, once our numbers are all in there, and we're just counting. How many of them are between 59.5 and 64.5? So from here to here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, right? So, above this, we're going to grab this, we're going to pull it up to the 6. There's actually going to be a line that comes up and it's going to connect that to the 6. How many numbers were between the next section, 64.5 and 69.5?
Can we count 64?
64, well, is that, nope, you're not going to count 64 because it's 64.5 or higher. So you're actually going to go from 65 to 69.
One.
There's only one. So then you're going to put a mark here above the, whoops, at 1, almost, and the line's just going to connect there. Then you're going to count in this section between 69.5 and 74.5, which means you're going to go from 70 to 74.
6.
You got 6 there. So we're going to mark the 6. You're just going to pull that up to the 6. And again, it's going to just pull your line up there. The next section between 75 and 79. Is at 4. And you won't have to draw the lines will just show up. And the last section between 80 and 84. 2. It's going to have that connected there, and I believe there is a line that when the computer shows up, then it just connects it down to the bottom. So it looks something sort of like that on your screen. Again, you've got the add or remove that you do there. So when you do your frequency polygon, you still have to do the sections like you do with your histogram. It's just you're just labeling the midpoints instead of labeling your endpoints. Where'd I put that? I put my marker down somewhere and it doesn't like me. Alright, so number 14 then, same kind of thing. The following are the lengths of stays and days for a random sample of 16 patients. Draw the frequency polygon for the data using an initial class boundary of 2.5 and a class width of 2. So 2.5, if my class width of 2 would be at 4.5, and then I have to find the midpoint of that. Well, you probably know the midpoint of that maybe without having to calculate. Halfway between 2.5 and 4.5 would be 3.5, right? So our first section there. Our next section will go 4.5. Adding 2 to that would be 6.5. Halfway between there would be 5.5. Our next section would be from 6.5 to 8.5. Halfway between there, 7.5. Our next section would be from 8.5 to 10.5. Halfway between there. I gotta figure out where my end is. I didn't look, but I gotta keep going because I see I have 12s. I have a 13. So then we have from 10.5 to 12.5. Halfway between there would be 11.5. And this one we still have to go another section because we still have the 13. So we have to go from 12.5 to 14.5. So 13.5 would be in the middle. So we actually end up having to add 2 sections on this one. All right, so if you type your data in and sort it out, did you do that already? We got to figure out how many values go in each of those sections.
Minus the error.
Whoops. Here's the same here. Let's see what we got. Let's go to 2. Sort A. Oh, there's nothing in the list A to sort. You have to put what list you want to sort. So I don't know if you were really trying to sort list 1 or not, but I'm going to hit stat. 1. Okay, that's our other list. Okay, we got to clear that list out and do a new one. All right, now we're doing those numbers.
Okay. Thank you.
So yes, if it gives you an error, you have 2 choices. 1 is to quit, the 2 is the go-to. I usually do the 2 to see what it brings up on my screen to see if I type something in wrong. Now, most of the technology activities will be with your homework stuff, but I wanted to go through the first one so you got used to using the graphing calculators and you knew what I was talking about, because I'll give you step-by-step instructions on doing these, because you can tell this is taking us a really long time to do. All right, do we have our list in there yet? Still working on it.
Can you sort it?
Yep, you need to sort them, because then we need to find out how many we have in each of our sections. So from 2.5 to 4.5, how many numbers did we come up with? Just 1. And then from 4.5 to 6.5, so in other words from 4 to 6, how many numbers do we have? 5, that's what I got. In my next section, from 6 to 8. Oops, I should have said 7 to 6.5, 7 to 8. So there are none in that section. The next section, 8.5 to 10.5, so from 9 to 10. We have 6. The next section is from 10.5 to 12.5, so 11 or 12. There's 3 of them. And then my last section, 12.5 to 14.5, in other words, 12 or 13. Or was it, no, it wasn't, am I that one? 12, 13 or 14. 13 or 14. We just have 1, right? 1. So, there's going to be a line over here. It's going to connect that, then go there, 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 and at the end there's going to be a line that hooks it down to the bottom again. You don't have to draw the lines. The lines will be there.
The last one was
The last one was 1. The number 13 would have been between 12.5 and 14.5. So there should just be 1 in that last section. All right. Oh, we got more stuff on here. I'm going to have to talk really fast. Not that I don't already. All right. While I'm figuring out the class boundaries, you guys go ahead and put the data in. You got the idea here, right? So, it says we have an initial class boundary of 13.5 and ends at 48.5. So that, if I subtract, it's 35 divided by 5 classes, so 7.
I keep doing the same thing. I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay, so I don't know what you have in there, but we are just going to clear that, and we're going to go to Stat and 1 for Edit, and those are the other numbers, so we're going to clear those out and type the new ones in. All right, so we started with an initial class boundary of 13.5. The end was 48.5, so when I subtracted, I got 35. I had to have 5 equal class widths, so 35 divided by 5 was 7. And so those should be my class boundaries, 35.5 to 20.5. 20.5 to 27.5, and so forth. So on the first one here, if I go from 35.5 to 20.5, my midpoint is 17. Now you could do the midpoint the long way for each of them, but since I know my class width is 7, I could just add 7 to each of those, and that should be my midpoints. So if I take 17 plus 7, I would get 24 plus 7, 31 plus 7, 38 plus 7, 45, and I think that's as far as we need to go. Label my midpoints. All right, so now we have to do our figuring out how many numbers are in each section. So between 13.5 and 20.5, so from 14 to 20. How many numbers do we have between 14 and 20? 4. The next one, we're going here, so we're going to go between 21 and 27. 2. The next one, we're going between 28 and 34. 7. And the next section, we're going between 35 and 41. 8, there actually should be an 8, but since I copied and pasted, there wasn't. And the last one, between 42 and 48. 2, back down to 2. And again, the lines will automatically show connecting all of those, but I'm going to draw them in here quick. And my graph's going to look something sort of like that.